What is up, YouTube? Steam blockchain. So today I want to talk about something that I am going to call life is a dream, but the dream is real. Or you would also be able to say it like life is an illusion, but the illusion is real. So I want to talk a little bit about that because for me that is a very interesting viewpoint of things. So So first of all, if you take creation, for example, if you imagine the idea of a creator, source of creation basically, what does it have to be? It has to be, if people say it's everywhere, it has to be nothingness. It has to be nothing, because that can be everywhere. Or you can also say it in many ways. It has to be darkness, because darkness also somewhat is everywhere. Even the sun is going to burn out one day. So if you start off with that sort of viewpoint, so if you imagine the idea of source of creation is nothingness and it's everywhere and it's sort of darkness because light burns out. So then you can understand sort of the um, the size of, let's say, something that creates things or doesn't create things. That if it's everywhere, it's darkness. You know, darkness, it's dark everywhere. And So let's dive deep into it. Okay, so a dream, but it's real. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, I think what it means is that sort of people observing things in the universe, and the more they sort of observe something, the more it grows. And So let's say they observe a dot. If they keep observing the dot, even though it's a dot, you can say it's a dream. Okay, imagine life. If you imagine life as a dot, you're observing that dot. And even if it's a dot, even if it's just a dream, even if it's just a dream, even if it's just a dream, you're observing it. You're observing the dream. You are measuring it. And that makes it real. Even though it's just a dream, it's just a dot. But just because you're measuring it, measuring the dot with your eyes, you are using energy and consciousness to measure it. So when you're measuring it, you're changing it. So if you would have, let's say, a dream, and so you can kind of see here how, yeah, you have a dream, and it's just a dream, but it becomes real because you measure it. And in a way here also, then you can see that this idea of something that just manifests from nothingness, it sort of makes sense in some ways if you understand how the human mind works. And if you are observing your thoughts and you're seeing you can only recycle it from the past data that you gathered, you can sort of see that when you get in new data, something is being created from nothing in many ways, because you take in some new data and now you can create something new. And maybe people are starting to measure that new thing. So starts off as a dream, but it becomes real, becomes very real for people. And you sort of see this about people, how if you really, you can see what people are buying into and what they're reinvesting energy into, and that sort of grows. And that a lot of this happens from non-conscious mode. It's unconscious, happens in the background. So in many ways, when I'm talking to people, I know it's going to take some time, or it's going to take a lot of time, and a lot of the work is probably going to happen subconsciously. Like they decide whatever it is they want to take in or whatever. But yeah, and I talked about a little bit in the past that humans, they're basically a program. Your memory in most ways, your sort of memory, if you're not using consciousness so much, you're mainly memory. So you're mainly working from past memory. Sometimes you're getting a little bit of, sometimes you're waking up a little bit, but most of the times it's kind of the same thing. But it's really interesting now, where I think a lot of people gonna start to play around a little bit more with new mediums, video for example, because yes, they have more free time over, and they might start to use a little bit more logic. Some people say they're super logical, but they're still quite emotionally driven. But I think that people's logic will sort of mature as we're moving forward here, and then they can sort of start to explore concepts a little bit more, and that they sort of decide to consciously create whatever now it is they want to create or buy into, and keep on developing that. So some people have dreams. Some people have dreams in their sleep, and but some have it in their life when they're walking around in the world. It really is a lot like a dream, and in a way, it's not really real. It's not really real. It's not really real. It probably more is some small little thing going on in the existence, and it doesn't even register in the cosmos, in the universes. This small thing being created from one person, their whole unique viewpoints and fairy tale stories and how their whole mind works. I mean, that's just their fantasy story. Everyone else has their own sort of fantasy story and their own sort of sense perceptions they have taken in, but it's just in that person's mind. It doesn't really exist. It has nothing to do with, it has no existential relevance. But it's real. It's very real, and people play it out. People play it out. So you sort of want to try to make people a little bit, maybe a little bit more curious, and then maybe they start to consider it themselves. Oh, this is just my own creation. I created this, so at least if I created this, maybe I should enjoy it. So you can make up anything, right? But you probably should enjoy it, right? Because it's like your own sort of creation. So if you're doing something, like creating something, you probably should enjoy it a lot, because like it's your show, right? So that is what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. So more people are probably gonna dive deeper into themselves and sort of asking more questions, really asking more questions. And it's really interesting when people start to ask questions, because eventually you're gonna get some answers. You're gonna get some answers, right? And the people starting to measure each other more and more when like you studying how people sort of interacting and so on, and what they sort of measure. It's really interesting, especially, yeah, it's a little bit boring when people haven't really been interesting human beings, when they just been like super non-serious, and just being super silly. I mean, yeah, it's fun a little bit, but it gets more interesting when humans develop their own sort of human being side, and when they really want to become better. That is way more interesting to sort of start to measure, and sort of start to see people develop themselves a little bit more, and making progress. I want to see that. I want to see that. So that is what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. So yeah, Life in many, 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 many ways is a dream, it's an illusion in many ways, but it's very real. Oh, it's so, so real. And and people should know that, as I said, it is your creation, right? It's your creation, so sort of enjoy it and see what you want to do here. Really see what you want to do here, because they have proven that we can sort of break everything, like atoms and so on. We can make them disappear into nothing, and that they also have created virtual protons and so on from nothing. So you can probably create anything here. So people should probably have that in their awareness, let's say. And one big thing that's probably going to come up eventually, which is going to be exciting to see humans develop into this, where, oh, they're going to have a larger realization of their own ignorance. And that's going to be very, very exciting to follow. I want to see that, like, when people realize, like, a lot of people don't know how ignorant they are, but when they actually realize it, it's going to be really interesting to see, like, to study them and see when they actually have a full-on realization how ignorant they are, and that they haven't really explored that much of the universe. That's going to be cool to sort of study. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Have a great day, DTube and the Steam blockchain. Bye bye.